we're not doing that. It gave me a penalty last time. We're just gonna have sex, Astarion. We're not gonna like. You're not gonna have my blood again. You're just having sex.
That's the main rule.
Dude, Barry's. I gotta say, this is my own character. Barry's kind of fucking hot. Sorry.
Oh my god, this is so cute.
That was nice. That was tender and romantic. That was worth. Okay. That was worth the sex, wasn't it?
Very proud. That was cute. Wait, what do you mean previously? Hold on.
Darling, I was just thinking about you.
He called me darling.
Remembering our time together, the things we've shared. And I don't just mean that lovely look of yours.
Oh well.
I'm growing to like the whole package.
I think he likes me.
Honestly. And you
This is so sad.
It's so sad, isn't it? It's so sad. What gave it away? Like, I like you?
Hello everyone, I was Lynx Camelli. For the first time in recorded history, Final Fantasy XIV is currently going through a bit of a rocky period. Although I no longer play the game, I loved FF14 like no other game I had ever played. I've put in over 12,000 hours in the 6 years that I played, and I've seen the game transform over time from a highly creative niche substitute for World of Warcraft to an unrecognizable mess of oversimplification and lack of creativity. The opinions and ideas I will present in this video are feelings I have had for a very long time, much before I stopped playing the game, but I never felt comfortable sharing these feelings because FF14 has a critical issue. You, or more appropriately, the FF14 community. It's no secret that a large amount of 14 players are die-hard lovers that will not accept any criticism or negativity towards their perfect game. Whenever someone brings up a problem they have with the game, they have to keep adding disclaimers that everything is fine out of fear of invoking the wrath of the FF lovers.
This is such a...
Warcraft is the opposite. You have to shit on it. Or that's what gets you the comments. You're a shill. I'm serious.
waste of potential. Because this dungeon could probably be badass, but instead they're gonna make it brain dead easy to cater to casuals, and that's fine. That's fine. A vast majority of their content is so that anybody can do it. And while that's good, and I'm not saying that they should take it away, they need to add some stuff that is a little harder, but not everybody can do it. I'm not saying they need to,
However, community sentiment seems to be declining for the first time in ever. I mean, Zepla, FF14's beacon of positivity and happiness, released a 36-minute video going over all of her issues with FF14's current...
Really? Can we not just skip that?
This was surprising. I mean, that's like a WoW player saying World of Warcraft is actually a good game. Like, that is beyond controversial.
I just said that.
And yet, it seemed to go over well, with a large amount of people agreeing and seeing through the Yoshi P indoctrination, criticizing the game for its legitimate shortcomings, so clearly, things are changing. Hence, me finally feeling comfortable to talk candidly about a game I used to love and genuinely want to see succeed. I'll be bringing up 4 main topics in this video. However, I won't be discussing the story since I'm a story skipper, so I don't have much to say on that, and it does seem to be one of the last remaining good parts of FF14. Oh. Topic 1. The formula is breaking down. For anyone that has played FF14 for longer than one expansion, we all know that this game operates on an extremely strict by-the-books formula with 0 surprises. Every expansion has 3 Savage Raid tiers, 3 Alliance raids, 2 trial bosses at launch, and a new one every major patch, accompanied with a new dungeon. I mean, there is 0 room for going above and beyond. Just stick to what has always been delivered. And people are just simply getting tired of it. There is definitely value in knowing what you'll be getting when you pay for an expansion.
I also agree that there should be more, especially in the rating department. Because to me, I feel like you guys are missing out on epic rating. But that's me, right? I've always felt that from day one, that the rating experience is excellent. Just lacking more of it, right? Not that it's subpar. There's just... I don't know, as a raider, back when I was raiding, if I could do 4 bosses for 6 months, 12 months. I don't. But again, that's a humble opinion, right? We all have our own. So I have
I mean,
to.
if any of you have been paying attention to Destiny 2, that game is a complete RNG loot box of what you'll get when you pay for an expansion.
I don't know
However,
that
the
game very well.
downside to being extremely formulaic is you lose the ability to excite people. No longer am I sitting at the edge of my seat watching every live letter stream theorizing with my friends on what they'll announce next. I know what's coming. Another 24-man raid. One new dungeon, a new trial boss, another 4 bosses in the Savage tier. Except actually, the final boss of the Savage tier is 2 fights that are half finished to form a 5-boss raid tier. Pfft, whoa, dude! What if they just made 1 fight that was fully complete? Okay, sorry, that's besides the point. I got a little off my rocker there. The point is, veteran players that have been around for a few cycles of the 14 formula are just getting burnt out. And what's strange about this is Final Fantasy XIV has grown immensely. I mean, the popularity of this game has only gone up over time, which obviously means way more revenue, and yet, what's to show for it? In fact, some of you might not know this, but in Heavensward, we actually got 2 dungeons per patch. We've steadily been getting less dungeons with every expansion, because you know what Square Enix does? Instead of investing the increased revenue to grow the game, they only ever move development to different pieces of content, never.
I'm not gonna lie to you. That sentence tells me they don't understand how business works. You had me. Yes, I think there should be more in this, more of that for other people, even if I'm not a raider in this game. But now it's the devs' fault. They just moved them around. The demand has grown. Their 2-year cycles are very tight. There was a pandemic. This is someone who just doesn't get it. And that's okay. But I mean, he's talking like he does.
Ever increasing the overall amount of content. The mystical question everybody's had this expansion is, where is Endwalker's Eureka and Bozja equivalent? Well, it's called Criterion Dungeons. No Ishgardian Restoration equivalent in Endwalker.
I don't like that they keep doing the same thing. Oh my god. Well, how about this? We'll give you something new that's got an easy and a difficult section. They put all their resources in this thing. They tried something. Did it hit? For me, I don't know. I've not tried Eureka. I can't speak to it. Was it a hit or a fail? I don't know. Maybe some people preferred the Eureka type, Bozja type thing. Some people preferred the Criterion Dungeon. I'm not gonna yuck your yum. But you're asking for more. They gave you something different. Just say, hey, it didn't hit as well as it should. I think it, you know what I mean? Very disingenuous.
Yes, there is. It's called Island Sanctuary. Less dungeons and
Which we
Stormblood
asked
onwards,
for.
well, that's to make way for ultimate raids. You see, despite FF14 exploding in popularity and the cash shop overflowing with overpriced garbage to milk the player base, Square Enix has never added content to the game, only
We asked for Island Sanctuaries. We were excited. We were screaming for Island Sanctuaries. People generally loved the Island Sanctuaries. This is starting to sound like somebody who really likes one kind of content, not getting that one kind of content, saying that the world is shit. Listen, there's some valid criticism. Right there, the monetization shop is not great. Okay? Again, if you compare it to World of Warcraft's, for the BlizzCon versus FanFest, BlizzCon wins this. You know what I mean? The cash shop is insidious to a very strong point. Remember, you pay monthly for this game. I get that criticism. I do. I agree with you. I agree there's not enough raids. But, I mean, I'm also not going to make a point out to try to shit on it, right?
placed content. And this formula is just getting stale. Do I really want to spend $15 a month just to do another 24-man raid that is exactly like the ones that came before it? Topic 2. Repetition breeds apathy. Beyond just sticking to the formula for content releases, FF14 has also lost all creativity when it comes to encounter design, which was arguably FF14's greatest strength outside of the story for years. In fact, one of my most popular videos on this channel is me selling the game to WoW players on how great the boss encounters are.
I think I hit the nail on the head earlier. This is a raider who likes to raid, which I'm glad you do. I want you to have fun in this game. But sweetheart, that's not the only thing there is here.
But again, for those of us that have been around for a while, we have started to see the utter lack of innovation when it comes to boss design, even in the ultimate fights. Every mechanic is just a random combination of group stacks, prey markers, tether grabbing, limit cut, tower soaking, or god forbid clock spots. I mean, it's all been done before. There is no...
Have you played World of Warcraft? And no, that's not me shitting on anything, okay? Just listen, I rated World of Warcraft. I rated World of Warcraft for a long fucking time. And I will admit that. I'm okay with that. The mechanics don't change. Okay, once in a while you'll get a unique this thing happened. Like dude with the hammer where he hits the sides and they go boop and you have to be in the right square. That's cool and unique. Same idea, right? Like you'll get a fight like that, which is kind of unique and cool, but you get like one or two. It's the same thing in both games. And to sit there and say like it's getting I think you're burnt out from raiding. And that's not a bad thing. But that's what it feels like. Again, I wish you had more bosses. I wish you had more.
No interesting new mechanics that challenge your gameplay ability. If you're a veteran player or no one, tell me if this sounds familiar to you. Oh, this mechanic is like this other mechanic in that other boss. Every boss is just a reskin of mechanics used in previous fights over and over. All you have to do when learning a new Final Fantasy XIV boss is find the safe spots, because do you know what every FF14 mechanic in existence is? Stand and let thing resolve. Seriously, when I had this realization is when I lost all interest in FF14 encounter design. Stand and let thing resolve. That is every mechanic. There is no innovation to the gameplay, just simply a new twist on stand and let thing resolve.
Let me tell you something cool, okay? World of Warcraft has dragon rules. If you're fighting a dragon, you need to stand on the side. It does a tail whip, it does a breath attack. If it goes in the sky, you need to run. In World of Warcraft, if you're fighting a mob, it's only one of two things. You either have a specific order, they gotta come down, or they gotta come down at the same time. No ifs, ands, buts, maybes, that's how the raid is gonna go. And they have a mob boss every single raid section. There's only two ways to take them down.
Other MMOs have moving platforms that require careful jumping, boss attacks that can be countered, which dynamically changes the fight every pull, or using height and gravity to create fun moments. All FF14 has is stand and let thing resolve. Grab the tether and let it resolve. Go to clock spots and let it resolve. Hide behind the rock and let it resolve. And this repetition of reusing old mechanics over and over on top of a non-changing gameplay formula leads to apathy. No longer are we challenged and asked to improve our gameplay ability. We are simply tasked with finding the safe spot and standing there until the thing resolves. And challenge in FF14 has actually been going backwards. The game is not even maintaining the difficulty it used to have, but actually making everything easier and easier. Topic 3. It wasn't always...
I have heard in every single expansion of any game, whether it's this, whether it's Warcraft, that same argument. It's getting easier! And usually they don't have a mythic kill. Just saying. I'm teasing. I don't think he's doing this for clicks. I actually don't. I think this is a frustrated raider, which is really, really, it's fine. That's his opinion. The problem that I see that's different is that they are calling it the downfall of Final Fantasy XIV for their raiding frustrations. Those are not the same. There's a percentage of players that raid, and a percentage of those people that are frustrated, and that's perfectly valid. But the grand majority is not there, right? There's a loop of people that play this game, that play it 100 different ways for 100 different reasons. And so far, we're 7 minutes in to a 15-minute video, and every single point is about rating except the shop, which, again, I agree with. And there are some rating points I agree with. It's just, again, it's really very, this is what it is.
Like this. I understand that I might be coming across as a bitter old man yelling at kids for having fun. I'm only 24, by the way. But trust me, I absolutely despise nostalgia lords who blindly think everything was better in the past. However, we can empirically say that Final Fantasy has only gotten easier with every expansion. Class design has completely stagnated and lacks any growth at all. I mean, it blew my mind that an actual popular opinion these days is to make combo skills just one button that you spam over and over. Yeah, great idea, geniuses. You know, what if we just made every class have one ability called the I win button? Maybe then you could convince yourself you're a good player. Preach Gaming used to have a philosophy on class design he called moments of glory, where classes were not meant to be jacks of all trades, but instead have moments and encounters where they're specific.
Okay, you're going off of Preach's stuff, which is fine. That's Fire Mage, by the way, and I like the way that plays, but that plays almost exactly like a Black Mage. That's the part. Like, when you get into your rotation where you're popping Fire 4, that's what that looks like. That's what it feels like. Which is funny to me. And it does have that exact moment that he's talking about. And while you're comparing World of Warcraft to Final Fantasy XIV here, because that's the video and you're taking from Breach, but Warcraft did that like 10 years ago. And no, I'm not shitting on anybody. Think about that. Warcraft took down their number of buttons and number of stuff a long time ago. In fact, on this channel, we have joked a lot. Because I play Warcraft on controller. Okay? I do. I very much do. And I laughed because it's so much simpler. The rotations are so much smaller. Because they're meant to be played differently. It's meant to be played in a shorter burst. It's meant to be a little bit more precise. And Warcraft tends to have more movement in their gameplay. Which, again, perfectly fine. Tomato, tomato. But your example's not doing what you think it's doing. It's actually doing quite the opposite.
Specific class had an area to really shine and do something special. Where are modern day FF's moments of glory? Pressing Fellcleave 5 times in a row? Yeah, that's real interesting and unique. The only class...
Let me introduce you to an arcane mage. And why I fucking hate arcane mages. Okay? Or let me introduce you to Paladin. It's a 4-button rotation, sweetie. Monk. Build, build, build. Hit the big button. Build, build, build. And I'm taking the classes that I know. My husband is a jack of all trades. Plays them all. He likes to level them. He's one of those weird ones. Love him, but you know. And it's about the same. So, again, while I understand, it's not reality.
That can even have a moment of glory is Black Mage, which is coincidentally the class that the game director Yoshi P plays, in which they can save up instant casts and procs to do an entire phase of an ultimate fight without ever needing to hard cast a single spell. Now that's really cool! Try and find any other moment of glory on any other class. They don't exist. Bosses that used to require planned movement, careful positioning, and a consideration for your melee DPS's positional skills have devolved into bosses with hitboxes as big as the arena, or the godforsaken wall boss. where boss movement is literally impossible. You know, I might as well just be punching the air with how little the actual enemy I'm fighting matters in an encounter. Raid buff abilities that used to have varying cooldown lengths requiring planned and coordinated burst timings to maximize damage on an encounter have devolved into every buff skill either having a 60-second or 120-second cooldown.
They only just fixed this for Endwalker. And I know it sounds silly because I remember this and someone had to explain it to me. Basically, they wanted stuff to flow better so that it was more consistent and it was more of a rhythm versus what this was. And I get it. If that's what makes you happy, cast them at different times. I mean, I get it. Like, and you're comparing Dragoon. Dragoon is one of those characters that does have that litany of buttons that you like to press.
Completely removing the planning of burst windows. And there's still so much more! The complete irrelevance of enmity and removal of tank stances, healers being completely gutted into only having 2 damage skills, DPS classes having unique and interesting targeted utility skills like Mana Shift and Palisade deleted from the game, conal AoEs that used to require dynamic movement and aiming to hit the most amount of enemies homogenized into every AoE attack being a circle around your character so you can't possibly miss an attack. I mean, I could go on forever! Cross-class abilities that used to incentivize trying other jobs by leveling them up to borrow a skill for your main job are now just auto-unlock role abilities. Attribute points that added another layer of growth while leveling your character by giving you extra stats are gone. I mean, Jesus Christ, every expansion is just another round of wait and see what they delete this time.
They deleted it because people hated it. And the harder you make it, the less players you'll have playing it. So if you want people to raid, it's just like the talent trees. I had this conversation on Twitter. Warcraft's talent trees, people were like, we hate it, it's too hard. Plus we just copy pasted anyway, so they got rid of them. Then people were like, oh my god, the game was so good when it was so much harder with talent trees. Now people are like, we're overwhelmed. We'll just copy and paste it off of Icy Veins. Good for you. That's what you want. Okay, again, I'm not shitting on his, I'm not yucking his yum. If he wants a more complicated game, I understand that. The reality is that the grand majority of people don't. This is a complaint that he has. Again, I get it. I do. Like, his complaints are not invalid. They're just extremely selfish. He's thinking of himself alone, and calling it the downfall. I don't know if it's an age thing. I'm not going to be ageist about it. But the reality is I can remember thinking like that, younger. That everything wrong with the game was this one thing. It's ruining it. Like, there's a percentage of players that are just playing Mahjong and having a grand old time.
Ugh. Miss Shaken Chair made a video going in-depth about how the dumbing down of class design is removing interest for veteran players, and I want to say that these changes don't help new players either. The greatest strength a game can have is being a game that is easy to learn but difficult to master. What happens when the game is easy to learn and easy to master? You know, as veteran players, we often have to huff copium by saying that, well, the game isn't made for us. It's made for new players, and us veterans are just marketing tools to get new players to try the game. But that doesn't last forever. No. There isn't an infinite pool of new players you can constantly bring in. Eventually, those new players become veteran players too, and they will realize all the problems with the game and end up logging out for the last time. What happens when there is no more new players? Topic 4. Who is this game made for? Every simplification, every deletion of a system, every dumbing down of an interesting mechanic has always been seen as making the game more approachable. My question is, with this never-ending crusade of making the game easier and easier without ever expanding the available content or adding on to the existing gameplay formula, what is the end goal for Final Fantasy XIV? Everything I loved about the game has either been removed or dumbed down to the point of being menial. As someone who got into the game for the unique class design and amazing raid encounters, I've had to sit and watch as all the interest in class design was slowly whittled away, making every class dull and homogenized. I've had to sit and watch as all the creativity and raid design slowly evaporated into a mishmash of reusing the exact same mechanics for years on end. And if the trend continues, at some point, your favorite features will end up being dumbed down or deleted. So what is the end goal here? Who is the game made for? Cat moms who play 1 hour a month and spend that entire time crying because the pixels on the screen said a sad word?
Really? Really? Again, I was with you. I gave you benefit of the doubt and understood that your point of view was very, very narrow-minded. You didn't have to prove my point. I could have called that. I could have fucking called that. The person who's crying at the pixels, I hope this game makes you happy. I hope you enjoyed that moment. I hope that brought you a new perspective. And I hope you play. I hope you enjoy it. That's it. That's all you had to say. It's not for me. I disagree. It's not my way of having fun.
Leveling roulette mains who spend the entire expansion leveling classes that they will have no use for at max level?
My husband does that with World of Warcraft. He loves that shit. I literally just said this earlier in the fucking video. Yeah, there's people that do that and love it and will spend hours in it. Maybe even buy something at the fucking shop. You don't get to tell them how to play, sweetie. You don't.
Roleplay mains who don't even do any content at all and spend their sub money dancing at player-made clubs? Look,
Yeah, sure. And I hope you had a fucking great time. Again, you don't get to tell people how to play. You don't. And then call it the downfall of Final Fantasy IV. Listen, if you want to say, I hate raiding in Final Fantasy XIV, great. Your video mostly stood its ground. But this
I'm
guy,
not trying to shit on those kinds of people.
you just did.
But if that's who the game is targeting, then why even bother making high-end raids? Why even bother adding new classes to the game? Why even bother?
Because people want to play new classes, regardless of rating. And again, I agree that maybe there should be more raids. I do. I agree with you.
With anything but the MSQ. The point I'm trying to make is that on
Some people play the MSQ because they like a Final Fantasy game with a Final Fantasy type storytelling. And then they unsub for 3 months until the next story comes about. Also valid.
on top of catering to the cat moms, the leveling roulette mains, and RP enjoyers, the game used to cater to everyone. It used to cater to the high-end raid enjoyers who wanted in-depth class design to master and theorize how to maximize on a fight-by-fight basis.
You wouldn't have theorized how to maximize on a fight-by-fight basis. You wouldn't. I'm going to be honest with you. Again, as a Warcraft raider who raided hard in Lich King, Cataclysm, and Half a Panda, you're going to Google it. You're going to watch the video. Fat Boss? Listen, I fucking watched hundreds of hours of Fat Boss raiding. That's how you're going to do it. You're not going to spreadsheet shit yourself. No. You're going to look it up. Don't lie to me.
It used to cater to the mid-core, semi-invested players who wanted a goal to chase with relic weapons. It used to cater to people who actually wanted a game to get invested in and master. On top of the new players, the casuals, and Twitter spamming Graha Tia Sims.
And for the Graha Tia Sims, at your service. Hope you had great time, and I hope he's going to stay in the game just for you.
But it's not that way anymore. And I just don't know who the target audience is for this game. I don't know if Square Enix just wants you to simply play the patch by coming back once every 4 months to complete all the new content in 4 hours and go, oh, that was cool, I guess, and then log out for 4 more months. It doesn't seem that way with how slow the gearing up process takes, or the hooks they have to keep you resubbing with things like the auto demolition timer for housing, where you can't take a break longer than 45 days. But
they did that because of the shortage of housing. Again, you don't like housing, you like raiding. Shut up.
But if they want us to continue playing week after week, paying our monthly $15 entry fee, then why are they removing all of the interest and challenge for players who do spend a large amount of time playing the game? I don't subscribe to the idea that making everything easier and simpler ends up keeping new players invested for longer. In fact, I think it's the opposite. I think expanding the available content, keeping a high skill ceiling for players to master, and constantly creating unique encounters to genuinely challenge your gameplay ability gives players a reason to play the game more than the required 4 hours a patch. I used to think that all the simplification to class design would mean players would have an easier time getting better at the game so they could tackle harder content. But, as I'm sure all of you know, even in FF's easiest state of all time, people in roulettes are still terrible at their classes.
How many times have you heard people LFR terrible? They get kicked out for low DPS. This is the guy that
people in Party Finder groups are still floor magnets that do 1 DPS. And again, I'm not trying to shit on these people. My point is that if someone doesn't have an interest in taking that step into the world of playing well and learning to optimize, then they just won't. No amount of simplification, homogenization, and dumbing down or deletion of systems is going to make Johnny Two Fingers become a good player. It just makes the game less interesting and fun for those of us who want to spend a little more time on the game and get a little more invested. And this is the crux of everything I've said. The path Final Fantasy XIV has been going down does not tangibly improve the game for new players, because eventually they too will become veterans and reach a point where there is no more challenge or interest in the game for them. This game that I gave 12,000 hours of my life to and 6 years of enjoyment has taken away everything I once enjoyed about it. I just want the game I once loved to be good again. It has been in the past, and I desperately hope it will be in the future.
The story of a raider who hates every other player who doesn't raid, who doesn't play the same way he does, wanting harder raids, harder classes, harder everything because that's what he likes. Which again, I'm not going to argue that that's not valid, right? I disagree. I fucking disagree wholeheartedly. I think that the approach is way the fuck off. I actually kind of like the way that things got harder progressively for the players. I like the way that things are, which again, we can disagree on that. That's the joy of opinion. The difference is I'm not going to fucking loop every single player in there and say, hey, the game sucks because what I like of it ain't great anymore. So yeah, I think this video, which I heard some people actually really thought well of it, which I'm assuming they're in the same boat. They miss the rating, they miss the different classes, they miss some of the older stuff. Nothing wrong with that. But this is a very, very, very slippery slope. So I implore you, if you watch this and you're like, yes, I agree, just take 5 minutes and look at everybody else. Okay? Before you start saying the game is wrong. Everybody else. Where are the subs happening? Are people complaining of lack of content? Which there was a little bit of that in Endwalker, so there's some valid criticism. Maybe the criterions didn't hit the way they should have. Again, valid. But this road is 100% wrong. 110%. This is a very, very, extremely biased view to look at things, and the reality is that if they're no longer playing because what they like is gone, it makes sense. I hope eventually they get what they want out of the game, but I wouldn't want to raid with this guy, honestly.